woman who has books, who loves sharing, who loves teaching. And I'm excited to hear from who I think is an incredible woman who understands media impressions and all of the things about being collaborative, is Stacey Hall. And I know that, Liz, you have the pleasure of introducing this woman and having some time with us on our stage. So Stacey, love you. Nice color, good color. Good color for you. And I'm going to sit back and I get to listen and enjoy, which is lovely.
Stacey, it is just a pleasure to introduce you, a five-time number one best-selling author. I can only aspire to that. A TEDx speaker. Stop shitting on yourself. I want to say I watched this the other day. It's an awesome, awesome TEDx. You transform women from feeling like burned out searchlights into entrepreneurs who are powerful and brilliant lighthouses. And your topic is from burnout to brilliance. What we don't know about you is that you were escorted out of Graceland by two security guards. Now, that is a story I'm sure we all want to hear. Your favorite music is Anything by Ali Yusufi. And your gift for everyone is your time mastery workshop valued at $597. And your one-to-one gift is the 1 hour activation session with Stacey and the Lighthouse book plus the Lighthouse workshop, which is an amazing gift. So good luck, everyone.
It's Thank you very much. I'm very, very thrilled to be here in this room with so many friends that I've met through this organization. When I look at who's in the room, I love each and every one of you, and I have to say that first. So, on one hand, I feel very supported, and on the other, I'm feeling like, oh my gosh, I just want to talk to each of you. Okay, we're going to talk about three important elements, and I love that chronic overfunctioning that came forth through Olga in the last session, because that's a really fancy way of saying overwhelm. And that is the epidemic, that's the pandemic, that's the everything that everyone, and literally overwhelm binds women together. You say the word, instantly we feel a connection with each other. Most people, right? But it's because we haven't focused on three things. And I really believe these three elements are the antidote to burnout and overwhelm. And when we tap into these three elements, our light comes back on. And we wind up being that brilliant, bright light in the world that we choose to be. We shine from the inside out. And we bring light out into the darkness, and we can help other people overcome overwhelm and overfunctioning. So that's what I want to talk about today. The first that seems to go out the window when we hear requests, I'm just going to put them like that, requests from other people or from the universe, those things that happen when we're, as John Lennon said, when you're living your life, life happens, right? So the first that seems to go out the window when I talk with my clients and my friends, and I say, all right, let's come back to your core values. What are your top three core values? And if somebody would like to just drop that in the chat, just say, what are your top three core values? That question. Because what I often get is a deer in the headlights look. And I'm going back to what Carol talked about, like that innateness. That's always actually there, but it seems to get sacrificed as we attend to everybody else's mission and purpose and core values, but we really cannot leave that foundation. Because it's those values that if we pause and stop before we respond, and we say, if I'm going to respond from these values, how am I going to respond? And it is extremely different than a knee-jerk reaction. It's extremely different from giving in because we think we should, which we're going to talk about the shoulds here in a minute. But I want to know, drop a 1 in the chat if you agree that if we stopped, took a breath, and thought about our 3 core values, there's no way we would be out of alignment in responding to the world. And I'm going to say these values don't get discussed openly, right? We talked about not talking about money, but we don't talk about our values. I'm going to take that, but Carol talks about her values. But most of us do not put it out there. And I always say, you want engagement on a social media post? I don't care what you're selling. If you were to declare one of your core values, just say, one of my core values is trustworthiness. I can promise you, you would get more engagement than you have ever received on any other post. And you can go from that and build friendships. And then another day you post another one. Another day you post another one. People actually love talking about their values. They just don't do it. Somebody has to start the conversation. I can promise you, I always say, shine like a lighthouse. That's your values are what you stand on. It's what I stand on. They're my direction. And when I tap into them, my light naturally shines, my heart opens up, and I feel good with the world again. It's like anything around me could be happening, but if I know where I'm located in my heart, you cannot shake me. You cannot. Said another way, I stand strong. So, next, with being connected to our core values, we now get to make choices. Carol, I'm going to keep her swing. Carol knows she and I are like so in alignment. She could give this presentation. I could have given her presentation, but I'm going to come back to what she said again because we must listen to what we say. And what comes out of our mouths as women more than any man is I should and I have to. Think about it for a moment. Any guy you know, when was the last time you heard them say they should do something? Or they have to do something? Men they don't talk like that. They don't think like that. They do or they don't do. That's it. I'm going to do it. I'll get around to it at some point. Not going to do it. That's their mode, which is why most men do not get overwhelmed or overfunction. But we do that all the time. It isn't enough that we're gifted with opportunities and possibilities that are beyond all that we could ever do, but that we harm ourselves. We pick up a bat, we beat ourselves on the shoulders. Think about the word should. On the shoulders. Beat ourselves down with all the things that we really should be doing, but aren't doing. And then we give ourselves guilt. And then we give ourselves upset. So are we really in overwhelm or are we just an upset? Most of the time, it's chronic upset. And once we get there from a vibrational standpoint, good luck. If somebody doesn't come along and take the bat out of our hands and put pom-poms back in, and I mean cheerleading pom-poms. I'm not talking about anatomy here. Okay? I'm saying put the pom-poms back in our hands and remind us to cheer ourselves for everything we've already accomplished. Then the light starts to come back on. What is going to make that happen for ourselves is if we replace the word should and we replace the phrase have to with one word. Choose. Choose is what I meant to say. Choose. I get to choose. Somebody asked me, You want to go to the movies? I come back to my core values related to everything else that's going on around me. And then I pause, I decide, I choose, and I say yes. Or no, not at this time. Just that clearly. I'm going to give a shout out to the first coach that ever made a difference in my life. Her name is Linda Stark. She's still out there in the world. Linda taught me because I didn't know how to say no, because I was too afraid of hurting somebody's feelings or them getting mad at me. Now, anybody who knows me today thinks I just made that up and that I'm lying, but you did not know me in my 20s and my 30s and my early 40s. Just saying. Okay? Menopause has been very, very good to me, truly, in being able to speak my voice. But back then, I didn't know how to say no, so she taught me two phrases, and they are two separate phrases that go together, and I'm going to teach them to you in her honor. Somebody asks you to do something, you tap into your values, you're going to make the choice, you're not going to do it. This is what you say. Thank you for asking, period. That doesn't work for me, period. Thank you for asking. That doesn't work for me. There's no and, there's no but. It's two straight sentences. Not a question. Our voice doesn't go up at the end. It's that. And what I often get asked when I teach this to clients is, well, what if they come back and say why? I said, well, you just told them, but you can say it again. Because it doesn't work for me. Because nobody, unless you gave them that power, requires a reason or an excuse. Because what they'll do with it is they'll hook you in. You give them a reason or excuse, that tells them they have permission to talk you out of your reason or your excuse. And that's what happens. And then they reel us in and we just go, you know what? It just was easier to just give in at the beginning. Drop a 2 if you know that this is true. Okay? No one, not even your spouse, and especially not your children. I was going to say, because they are masters of manipulation. Like, I need to tell anybody that. It's just thank you for asking. It doesn't work for me. That's the reason. And what will happen is the more you do it, they'll stop asking because you're no longer an easy hit up. You've just been too easy. Okay? Remember what our moms told us when we were young, not to be easy. But we wind up being easy in this particular way. So let's just stop it. Not easy. I'll do it if I choose to do it. I'm not going to choose to do it if I'm not going to choose to do it. So we've covered core values and we've covered choice. These two have to be in place before we set priorities. And what I hear from my clients when we first get started is it's impossible for them to set priorities because life changes. It is not impossible. And there's an easy way to do it. And yes, we can be flexible, but that doesn't mean we don't do it at all. We put a foundation in, and then we make choices from our core values in any given moment. So here's how we do it. And if you do it another way and it works for you, beautiful. I'm talking to people who have never actually put a priority plan together because it seems like there's so much up here, it would take days to dump it out. The funny part is, it usually doesn't take longer than a half an hour. No matter how full this feels, usually about a half an hour. So, if you pulled out a piece of copy paper, Xerox paper, put it lengthwise, and you drew columns, what I'd want you to do is list out the parts of your life. So, for example, family, business. Well, when I say family, family could be broken into children, romantic partner. Not making any judgments here. So, whatever you call that, the romance part of your life, friends, your faith, your pets, your self care. Each of those is a part of our lives. And I'm going to say something here that is not going to be popular, and it is true. So don't get mad at me, but it's true. Most people attempt to live in all the parts of their life at the same time, and it's not possible. And I'm going to give you an example to prove it. Imagine, many of you have these already, but if you don't, imagine you have a home and you've got an acre of land that's undeveloped in the back of your house. And you've got a plan, right, of what's going to go in. There's going to be a pool. There's going to be a spa. There's going to be a barbecue area. There's going to be a flower area and an herb area and a vegetable area. And there's going to be a dog run, okay? There's going to be a kid's tree house. You've got the plan. You've got the money. You could get all the workers, all the materials, everything there at the same time to get it done. But you know what would happen? They'll start excavating the pool, and all that dirt will go everywhere and it will ruin everything else. So you can't do it all at the same time. You have to figure out what goes in first so it won't ruin everything else. It's the same with our priority plans. So while we want to have a life that we get to do everything, some days the max we can put focus on is 3, maybe 4 of our priorities. So if we know that, once we make these columns, yep, Carol, the big rocks first, but the big rocks are going to change sometimes, day by day. What we want to do is once we have the columns, then we take a look at the era of our life that we're in, the era. So moms of kids under the age of 18 in the United States, kids kind of have to be a big rock for a long period of time. Because if you're not making sure they get to the age of 18, healthy, wealthy, and well-adjusted, especially now, anything could happen to you. So it is in your best interest to raise your children till the age of 18 and make that a priority, right? That's not a judgment call over here. It's a legal call these days. Okay, and I'm joking around, but of course. But then beyond that, how important is it that you work X amount of hours? It might be very important. You might require that to make the money to be able to take care of the kids and yourself and all the ways that you want. So you're going to look at it for over a period of time. The big ones are not going to change day by day. The activities you do for the big rocks, as Carol calls them, might change day by day. There might be some activities that have to wait a couple of years, or even the priority might have to wait a couple of years. But if we have it laid out, we know that at some point, all of it's going to get done. We're just going to focus here. Then what I'm going to say to you, and this is what brought Deb and I together. So who's got it? Who's got it? Drop a 3. If you've got it, put it in the chat. Let Deb know. I don't care which cover. Drop a 3. If you don't have this, there's no way that you're going to get out of chronic overfunctioning. Just saying. Okay? Yep. Change the life. I don't care what Deb calls it. This is my agreements book. These are the agreements that I make with myself regarding my priorities. And so when it comes to my business, you can see if it's in here, I made an agreement with myself that it's in alignment with my values, it's in alignment with my choices, and it's in alignment with my priorities. And that's the step that many people are not using. Here, I expect everybody's doing it. But out there, one of the ways I think that we can really be of service to humanity, and I don't get a commission for selling the planner. I've been doing this for years and years. But I do think it is a service to womanhood that all of us teach our friends how to manage their lives from their values, from their choices, from their priorities, and then their agreement book. And I'd like to say thank you for being women who manage your life, because you're dependable. You're trustworthy. You're all the things that you say you choose to be through your values. It shows up. And I know that I was preaching to the choir here for the most part, because you're all bright lights. But I do want to say that my gifts are going to be dropped in the chat. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, how do I know so many? Because I love having conversations, and I will say yes. I will choose to say yes to putting you in my agreements book so I can get to know you better. Liz, turning it back over to you.
Oh my goodness, that was
So
amazing. I love
wonderful.
that. I saw Nad's agreements book. Don't give me another book to do. You do that one. But and that was so self-loving. That's all I can say. It was just so self-loving.